In a minute, I'm going to show you 3 ways to get to know your people that you probably never even thought of. And they're the simplest things. They take a few minutes, but they're very simple. And you get to know who you're talking to, and they will do things for you they've never done for any other manager because you've shown interest in them. Please write this down. When you show interest in others, others will show interest in you. Very simple psychology tenet. When you show interest in others, others will show interest in you. But we're busy, and you got a lot of stuff on your plate. And you don't have time, you think, because you're in the habit of not having time. But change your habit, change the results. And your next meeting here looks great. And your commission checks look great. And your profit sharing looks great. So, men versus women. Men not famous for over-communicating. But I notice we have some women here today, and I notice they're all clustered together in the middle of the room.
They're the heart of the room.
They are the heart of the room. They're central to everything that we're doing here today. Welcome, ladies. And I need you for this portion because, not that I think the men are going to see very quickly that I'm right about this, but the women can validate it and verify it very quickly. Men are not famous for over-communicating. Men are not famous for sharing like women are. Do we basically agree on this? And we work in a predominantly male industry. So what do you think's not happening most of the time? Sharing, communicating. You know, can you imagine? I want to tell you about my feelings. At the end of the day, it just doesn't happen, right? And yet men have feelings too. But we talk about them differently and sparingly. What if you could create a culture where men in your care, which is really what's happening, actually felt safer to talk at least to you, maybe not to the male community, because that's a big shift to get the guys to stop teasing each other and, you know, the gruffness and all that. That's a kind of a man thing. But what if they at least trusted you enough to have those kinds of conversations? Could you even make that happen? The answer is yes. You can create that kind of environment. And once you do, you have a bond with that person that will never be broken. They will be so faithful to you and the cause, it's like a night and day difference. And you'll enjoy each other more. You'll enjoy the relationship more. The department will be more productive. Other people will see this happening and want to move that direction. But like this classroom, you're not going to get everybody. You're going to try to get everybody to share and communicate, but it's hard. So I'm going to show you some tricks for this. Men like to compete. I know a lot of women like to compete too, but there was a long time there. If you opened up the Guinness Book of Records, they were all men in the Guinness Book. It's changed quite a bit in the last few years. But men like to compete. And women like to share and talk and bond, you know. Men get together, they want to win. Women get together, let's all get t-shirts. You know, and then we'll win. It's a different thing. And so figure this out, men and women. We also have an issue in this room with senior citizens and younger citizens, older and younger. Raise your hand if you work with people who are younger than you. Almost everybody. Raise your hand if you work with people who are older than you. Again, almost everybody. Raise your hand if you supervise someone older than you. Now that's an interesting little game show. And you don't think there's some psychology involved with that? That the older person sometimes doesn't like taking orders from the younger person, even when the younger person's competent. Old scripts. The fact that they regret not taking the job. The fact that they weren't offered the job and everybody knows it. These are the waters we swim in. It's not impossible to be successful, but I think the first step to solving any problem is identifying the problem. Don't you agree? Yes. So let's get to it. So I want to run through 5 quick ideas for leaders. And by the way, because I don't have slide 16, then slide 17, then slide 18, I work Stream of consciousness. If I get an idea, I'm going to share it with you. If you get an idea, I want you to just raise your hand and insert it into the program. We're good with that. It's a different kind of a learning session, but I'm great with it. I think it's better, more interesting. 5 ways that leaders can be better. You can be better at what you do. Number 1, communication actually reduces stress. And again, this is important for men to hear because men would keep it to themselves first, try to figure it out, climb to the top of the hill, survey the herd, right? And then maybe make a decision. We wait, and we're close to the vest, and we won't tell anybody what we're thinking, right? Meanwhile, all this other stuff's happening. But if we just start talking sooner and get the other person to start talking sooner, things improve. Number 2, confrontation is healthy. Ladies and gentlemen, there are 500,000 words in the English language, and every one of them has what's called a definition and a connotation. In other words, a denotation and a connotation. The denotation is the definition. That's how you remember, D and D, right? So, the definition of confrontation is to attack, to engage, forcefully engage, right? That's the definition. But it also has a connotation, which can be either positive or negative. Is the connotation of confrontation positive or negative?
Negative.
Negative. Most people would say, I had a confrontation today. Ooh, what happened? Bad news, right? It's not good. You did? Great. Good news, right? No one ever says that. It's always bad news, confrontation. But I tell you today that confrontation can be healthy. And I'll give you an easy example of this. How many of you have ever confronted yourself? Hands up. Yeah. Did anybody get hurt? No. I mean, this guy goes, yeah, okay. No, you confronted yourself, you know, a fork in the road, look in the mirror, and you go, nope, this is the story, and I got to change. I got to be a different man or woman, right? It's fine. So there are examples of confronting somebody. Here's another one. I have a lady friend who is the manager of a spa. And they have a lot of employees in the spa, a lot of issues, some drama, of course. Every workplace has drama. And there seems to be a misunderstanding about when you should come to work. And my friend who's in charge says, what is the matter with these people? Why do I have to call them every day at 9 o'clock and say, where are you? You know. So I say, well, why don't you confront her? And what's that look like? Does it have to be with malice? Does it have to be with, weaponry? No. It could be a simple question. Here's a very disarming question for somebody if you think they don't like their job. You might want to write it down. This is actually a great dialogue starter. But make no mistake, it is confrontational, man. This phrase, this question. Watch how easy it is. Hey, Mark, do you really want to work here? And Mark goes, say what? Well, let me tell you why I'm asking, Mark. You've missed a lot lately, and you're late. And I don't know, sometimes your heart doesn't seem in it. I'm just wondering if you really like the job. That's all. And Mark starts working extra hard to convince you. Oh, yeah. And he starts showing up on time, and he starts coming to work, and he starts offering for extra duty. Why? Because you planted that little seed through confrontation that, geez, you're not acting like you like to work here. And it's interesting little engagement, right? And then later you give them some positive feedback. I've noticed you've really plugged in lately. Thank you very much. Apparently you do like to work here. Now you have to reapply this medicine once in a while, but it's a great little bit of dialogue. We're going to talk about specific issues that you have as you let me know what they are. Okay, deal? That's just an easy example. Okay, number 3. Assertiveness. Assertive leaders are the best leaders. Assertive leaders are the best leaders. Now, for you to wholeheartedly buy into this, you have to know what the other 2 styles are. Can anybody guess at the other 2 styles of leadership? I heard it. Passive, very good. And what's the third one? Aggressive. Those are the only 3 styles. So now knowing the 3, you might say, yeah, assertive. But let's define them. Assertive leaders get what they want by not taking advantage of others. Make sense? Assertive leaders get what they want by not taking advantage of people. That means no bullying, no harassment, no temper outbursts, no compromising people, right? Something I think all of us aspire to. Aggressive leaders, and by the way, there are some in this room, statistically speaking, all three are in this room. Aggressive leaders get what they want by what? Taking advantage of others. In small ways sometimes. I mean, you're not a bad person if you're an aggressive leader. You've strayed off the path of being an assertive leader, but you're not a bad person. There's just maybe a little bit of room for adjustment, which is why we come to training. Aggressive leaders take advantage of their people in small little ways. Sometimes it's not even clear to them. They just think they're being... I know a lot of people who think they're being assertive and they're really aggressive. Finally, passive leaders don't get what they want. So assertive leaders get what they want by treating people right. Aggressive people get what they want by treating people wrong. And passive leaders don't get what they want. So you could see only one of these styles is going to serve you well. And that's the style you want to develop the discipline for, assertiveness. Technique number 4. No one has enough self-esteem. No one. Now, we get confused about self-esteem. Self-esteem is not arrogance. Self-esteem is not thinking too much of yourself, right? But most of us could use more self-esteem. I'm a pretty confident guy, and I could use more self-esteem, especially on some days, some times of the day. I could